She is Pam Pastor. She started working as a journalist when she was 17. She grew up in the newsroom of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, where she is now the editor of pop culture section, Super, and the youth section, To Be You. She is the author of books Paper Cut, Planet Panic, and one of the editors of the books Youngblood 4, 5, 6, and 7. She is also the vocalist of the band Mosey. In December 2015, she was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety disorder and has been using her voice and her stigma against mental illness. Let us all welcome Miss Pam Pastor. Hi, Pam.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Okay. The first thing I want to tell all of you is it's okay to mourn the world that we used to live in because that is not the world that we live in anymore. I feel like so many of us have been so busy with the day to day of trying to adjust to the strange world that we suddenly live in that we haven't had the chance to pause and think and realize that we've been going through some really crazy times. So I want you to do that. I want you to pause and think about the past months, what you've done to survive, and just pat yourself on the back because you deserve that. You acknowledge the things that you've done to adjust because it's not a joke. That the things that we've had to deal with the past months, they've been pretty intense. It's okay to be sad about the things that you miss. It's okay to think about all the things that we used to take for granted. I mean, we never thought there would come a time when we wouldn't be able to hug whoever we wanted, or shaking a stranger's hand is suddenly like the scariest thing in the world. I mean, it used to be such a normal thing, or that you can never leave your house without a mask. Um, or going out on Tinder dates would be a no-no. These are things that we took for granted and things that we always thought we could do, and suddenly, nope. Even things that used to annoy me, like being in a packed bar, I hated that. Like being bumped by strangers, now it sounds like such a good thing. So it's okay. Like think about those things that we used to take for granted, be sad about them, um and that's totally fine. What One of the things that I've learned during the pandemic is that our feelings are valid no matter what they are. I've had to grapple with feelings of guilt because I was safe at home. I didn't have to go out. I could be productive in the house. I could do my work here. I had food to eat, and I felt so guilty about that. And these are the different ways that we as people deal with difficult times. And now we face another big challenge because we are adapting to the new normal while the pandemic is still happening. The pandemic is not over, but we have to talk about the new normal, and we have to adjust to the new normal because life is moving, life is going on, birthdays are happening, graduations have happened. But the pandemic is still there. We have to keep remembering that. We still have 19,000 active cases in the Philippines, more and more diagnosed each day. So it's not over. But at the same time we're dealing with that, we also have to deal with the adjustment to this new normal. But one of the things that you have to realize, and we've seen this again and again, is that a crisis always brings out the best and the worst in people. I'm sure I can ask each one of you, and you can tell me stories even about just the people in your lives, about how the pandemic has brought out the best and the worst in them. We've seen some beautiful, beautiful ways that people have responded to the pandemic, from the frontline feeders who've fed thousands and thousands of health workers all over the Philippines each day with the help of restaurants and donors. We've seen the way companies have responded, have taken care of their employees. We've seen people lending their cars, their homes, schools opening their doors to health workers. So there's so much beauty still out there despite the horrible things that are happening. I also want you to know that while, it's important for us to be helping those who are affected more, because we've all been affected by the pandemic in varying degrees, some more than others. For some of us, it's just an inconvenience. None of us have gotten sick. We still have jobs. For others, it's meant the loss of people they love and the loss of livelihood. So of course, we absolutely have to help the people who need help. But it's also really, really important for you to help yourself. The thing that they say when you're in an airplane, when they tell you you have to put your oxygen mask on first before you help other people. It's true. And the same is true during the time of the pandemic. Self-care is even more essential than ever. And while in quarantine, one very, very important thing when it comes to self-care is really creating a space for yourself. And this is something that I learned pre-pandemic when I was first diagnosed with depression and anxiety disorder. I went back to my family home, and one of the things that my doctor told me was, you have to create a space for healing. And you have to think of this in these terms. We all of us, whether you've gotten sick or not, we've all been dealing with so much the past months that we all in our own homes really we need a space for healing. And so you have to do that. I like to call it nesting. You have to create like a nice space for yourself in your home. Now I am the non-expert here. Like, I know nothing about interior design and architecture. As in, like, you can show me a house, I will say it's a house. I don't know what kind of house it is. But I know what's cozy for me and what feels good and what makes me feel secure. And I know that whether you know a lot or you know nothing about design or architecture, you also know what makes you feel good, what makes you feel secure. So it's important for you to take care of your space and do the things that you can make a difference in your space, because that's where we've been spending more time. It's really, even if people have started going to the office, we've still been spending more time at home than we ever have ever. So it's really important for you to create a space that you love. Our balance in life right now is so dependent on the kind of space and the use of space, of our use of space. I will give you an example. In the first few weeks of the lockdown, we haven't stopped working because as newspaper people, we don't stop working. The only time we stop working is Good Friday, Black Saturday. That's it. But I noticed that I was being overproductive. Hello, HR. But it was so hard to know when to stop working because I was in my home, and I was also working in my home, and it was just hard to draw the line. Like, where do I stop? And so people who've been working from home pre-pandemic would always tell you, have a separate space for work and a separate space for sleeping and relaxing. But the thing is, not all of us have that luxury. We don't all live in mansions where we have all the space. I need to do everything in my bedroom because I need air conditioning and it's too hot in the Philippines. And so my sleeping room, my sleeping space and my working space is the same. So and I've been trying to find a desk that I want to buy, but I feel like everybody in the Philippines has been buying office chairs and desks, so it's hard to find like a good desk and chair. I've been trying online, and so I've had to make do with what I have. What I've done instead of changing my space is I've been changing my lighting. So that's how I've been trying to tell myself, okay, it's time to relax by changing my lighting to like the not so white officey lights. There's this light bulb that I bought that requires no change in your, like, you don't need a dimmer or anything. It's just when you switch it, I'm sure like our experts can tell you what kind of bulb it is, but like you switch it on, it becomes a white light. You switch it off, you switch it on again, it becomes that softer yellow light, which I like for relaxing. There. So there are little ways, or if you like scents, if it's time to relax, you spray your lavender, or if you need to wake up, you spray your mint or spray citrus scents. There are different ways that you can do that. But absolutely, the space that you live in right now is so crucial, and it's important that you love your space. I feel like this is also why a lot of people have been discovering different parts of their homes to love. People who've never cooked or baked in their lives before have started cooking and baking like pros. It's amazing. If you look at the Google Trends from March, April, May, there's been a crazy spike in people researching recipes. It's intense. Like, people are really cooking and baking because, one, it's comforting, and those moments that you're doing nothing but thinking about the recipe is a break from everything else that's happening. And it's, again, I think it's part of nesting, the same way that people are starting to garden and plant and harvest their own herbs for using in cooking. I think it's such a beautiful thing. It's another way to fall in love with the space that you have. Some friends have been asking, because I've only left the house 4 times this entire lockdown. And people have been asking, have you not been going crazy because you're usually out all the time? And no, actually, no, because I actually like the space that I've managed to create. It can be as simple as changing your sheets or finding a blanket that you really like. It doesn't have to get expensive, you know. So another thing that I want you to realize is that you can live a full life even if you're just at home. You can still learn new things. The internet is your best friend. One of the things I've been doing now during my free time is I've been learning about racism because of the Black Lives Matter movement. I feel like I thought I knew things about racism, and then it turns out, oh no, I don't know enough. So I've been trying to teach myself that. But then things do get overwhelming because apart from the pandemic, things are happening with the government, things are happening elsewhere. You have to know when to take a step back, when to take a breather, when to just stop. If you're feeling overwhelmed, stop, pause, take yourself away from it, play with your dog, watch a movie. It's really, I think the most important thing to remember is you have to be kind to yourself and you have to be kind to your others. And then get creative. Creative in terms of curating the space around you, creative in terms of celebrating the special occasions in your family's lives, like Sunday, it's Father's Day. Of course, you guys, I'm sure, are already planning things. And also getting creative, like in terms of livelihood. Like people, for example, people whose work depends on events have suddenly lost a means of livelihood, but people have found ways around it. Suddenly, everybody's selling stuff out of their homes. They're making sushi bake. Like there are maybe like 50 kinds of sushi bake now, and it's getting intense. Or like how many iterations of ube cheese pandesal have we seen? You know, like people are just really getting creative. Another way that people are getting creative is, this was really like a big surprise for me. I discovered this on my mom's birthday in May. People were able to create a business out of buying Conti's cakes for people because apparently like this, they sell out super fast, so people offer to buy them for you if you want to get your hands on Mango Bravo. So people are still finding ways to hustle under the lockdown. People are finding ways to make money, to make a livelihood, and you can do it as well. The internet is your best friend. Use it to connect to your loved ones if you're feeling sad. There are so many online sellers now. It's a fantastic way to support local businesses as well. There are so many great Viber groups and Facebook groups featuring sellers who are selling local stuff. And again, don't stop being vigilant, because remember, the pandemic is not over. Keep using your alcohol, keep washing your hands. Don't leave the house without a mask. You know, Filipinos have always been described as resilient, and every time there's a calamity that happens, people are described as resilient. Filipinos are described as resilient. But then after a while, it became a dirty word, right? People started hating that Filipinos were described as resilient because they say it's become an excuse for people not to do their jobs, because they know, oh, Filipinos are gonna deal with it. Kaya nila yan, even without like the help of the government. The private sector will step in. But you know what? I feel like it's time for us to take back that word resilient and embrace it, because that's really who we are. We really are resilient, and we are going to survive this. I will say it again. I started with this, and I will say it again. It's okay to mourn the world that we used to live in, but it's now time to embrace the new world. We are going to survive this pandemic, and together, with creativity, with compassion, with kindness, with self-care, with togetherness, we're going to thrive.
Thank you so much, Pam, for such an uplifting talk for this afternoon. Indeed, I agree with Pam. There is no challenge too tough or daunting, especially for a resilient lot like the Filipinos. I guess instead of focusing on the negative effects, we should just see this pandemic as a chance to really reset and rethink of our priorities. Clearly, our homes have served as a safe sanctuary during this lockdown, and our families, as mentioned by Pam and friends, are the pillars that will help us get through all these stressful and sleepless nights. I mean, you have a home, enjoy your home, enjoy the company of your family. Okay, now we move on to the second part of our webinar for the Q&A. I just have a question for all our panelists. How do you think has the pandemic affected or altered our lives, and how did it affect our preferences? Who would like to answer first? Pam or okay, Bianca?
Yeah, so like what I mentioned earlier, the focus right now is really your home, right? And like I said, most of the stuff that you would normally do outside your home is now within your home. And so that is major already. We are all affected in that way. And so it's really just a matter of coping and creating curated spaces or functional spaces, no? Like what Pam said, everything has to be about you, right? Like about it. Honestly, I'm an interior designer, but you don't really need an interior designer to know what works for you, right? I mean, it's you who's living there. And as a designer, that's also what I do. I also just ask my client, what do you do? Where do you do what you do? Do you do yoga? Do you exercise? Do you want to go to the balcony? So it's really more, maybe this pandemic, like what Pam said, made us know ourselves a little bit more, right? I mean, it's just really assessing ourselves and assessing our space and how we can now, navigate through this space. And what, like I said, it doesn't matter whether you have a big space or, a mansion. It's really just creating pocket nooks or moving things around, reducing some things, adding in some things. So I guess that's really how we were affected by this pandemic.
Sorry, from your perspective, Vit, as an architect, how has this pandemic altered or changed the way we live? Should the designs of the past or the architecture of the past pre-COVID should now be disregarded, and should we all go back to the drawing table and recreate spaces?
Um, Personally, I think that in terms of practicality, most of the designs that we've already come up with prior to COVID-19 are still applicable. So no, we don't need to do a major overhaul and go back to the drawing board. Many of us still carry out the same activities, although we have to rethink the ways that we do these in order to comply with the needs of the new normal. I think that the pandemic required designers and planners to tweak our approach a bit when it comes to our design to be able to enforce social distancing in spaces.
For Pam, would you say that dealing with the pandemic was initially very difficult, but I mean, after a week, a month, parang it became almost natural to just stay home and stay put. Like especially for you, you've been traveling a lot, covering events, and then suddenly everything was put to a stop. How difficult was it?
It was really weird. It felt like being trapped in an episode of Black Mirror. It was like, what is happening? It didn't feel real. Like for the first few weeks, it felt like we were all gonna wake up and be like, oh, it was just a dream. Because it's so weird. But you're right. It just takes a while. You kind of find the rhythm. It's just weird trying to find like all your interviews, you have to do them via Zoom. I mean, I never used Zoom before the pandemic, and now it's like such a necessity. And I hate like doing video calls. So, but it's been an adjustment. But I feel like I think that yeah, it taught me how resilient people really are, and that we can adjust to anything. But it's been weird, but it's gotten easier, and I kind of have to remind myself that wait, like yeah, the pandemic is not over yet. Things are not normal yet because it's kind of started. It's starting to feel normal. Yeah.
Yeah, the wearing of masks, spraying
Yeah.
alcohol, it has become actually a part of your daily routine.
Yeah.
What were the parang major realizations you've had while on quarantine? And can you at least name at least three things or situations that made you appreciate even more the comfort of your home?
Number one, no traffic. It makes you realize just how much time we spent in traffic before the pandemic. Number two, I spent all day, all night with my dog. He's the happiest. Like I think he's the happiest creature ever because I'm here all the time. And I'm here to supply treats. Number three, it's been a nice chance because I live with my mom. But because of how busy we get, she usually just sees me when I'm leaving the house or I'm arriving home like in the middle of the night. So it's been a chance. Like at the end of each day, I usually have dinner with her and we would talk. So it's been a bonding experience. I feel like we haven't done that in such a long time. So it's become parang a good time to bond with family as well. So I try to frame it that way instead of thinking about, oh, it's like losing our freedom, because you can think of things in that way, but I wanted to look at it in a sense of what did we gain. So like I got extra time because I'm not in traffic all the time. I get to spend time with my monster here, and then I get time to spend with my mom. So yeah.
Yeah, I think actually that should just be the attitude of, instead of looking at this pandemic as a parang as a curse, might as well look at it really as a time to restart. And I think it's time to view our homes in in a different light, because it used to be na parang we're just timing and then move out again and then go in again. So, but for our architect friends here, not to our interior designer, in terms of building, planning, and design, do we now see a complete overhaul of all the designs and drawings that we've seen prior to the pandemic? I mean, is it a must to create now spaces for wellness, your own space, and your own isolation space? I mean, how is that? Especially if you have very limited space.
Well, I don't think you have to do a major overhaul like what I did in my home. It's just really a matter of like plus and minus, right? You just remove things that don't really, the things that you don't really need. Like my design for my home was really meant for entertaining. And so, I'm not going to be entertaining anyone soon. So I have to remove so much furniture. And now it's my gym, right? So it's just really tweaking spaces. And it doesn't mean that you have to have, like I said, a big space or even a huge budget. You can buy so many things right now in Lazada or Shopee, like little things that would help you. With architect, she mentioned like herb gardens. I also bought so much herb gardens, like plants and all these things. And these little tweaks actually make your space so much brighter, so much better. It doesn't have to be major, it doesn't have to be expensive at all.
How about for you, Vit? Would you say that living in an estate now is more valuable? I mean, for there is actually a question from one of our viewers. For architect Vit, how will high density urban communities be redesigned to adapt it to the new normal or anticipate preventive measures for a future pandemic crisis?
Okay. I think that high density urban communities actually represent one of the more difficult challenges we are facing during the pandemic. So, um, in my presentation, I mentioned that right now we are prioritizing nature, privacy, wellness, and health in our private spaces. I think whether we live in a condominium or in a socialized housing project, these same values are still applicable. So, in terms of high density urban communities, when it comes to nature, there should be a provision of communal spaces for let's say urban farming. So it will be helpful for everyone to have a chance um, to have a space where they can practice, herb planting and um, planting their own food supply. So in a way, this will not only allow us to take care of our mental health, but at the same time to assure that we have food supply even if we don't have a job or income in times of the pandemic. Then when it comes to privacy, I think that there should still be a provision of enclosed spaces for households. One opportunity that we can be thankful for during this pandemic is that since there's a need for social distancing, finally people will be able to finally we will realize that it's important to uphold the minimum occupancy areas per person, because in the building code we actually have minimum space recommended for each person living in a home. Nowadays, I think with the need for social distancing, this can be strictly implemented already. Even if you live in a condominium or in a urban project. So this will allow us to remain safe even if we have to live with other people. So in terms of wellness, uh, I think it's still flexibility that we have to uphold. So as mentioned by Bianca, um, it it the spaces that we have right nowadays is not exactly doesn't follow an actual formula. You only have to design for your own activity. So if you're into exercising, then you can make your own home gym with whatever you have at home. At the same time, if you're into other hobbies like cooking or growing herbs, you can turn your existing spaces and transform them to be able to accommodate your activities. And lastly, in terms of health, I think this is one of the things that we should really turn our focus on. Um, it's not it's not the idea of more public hygiene spaces will in our communities is actually is actually viable, especially nowadays when we have to ensure that infection will be kept to a minimum. So I see that more public wash stations, toilets might be constructed over the next couple of months now that we are battling the COVID-19 virus.
Okay, this one is for Bianca. How do I design my new home given my tight budget? I think our attendee moved from her previous home to a much smaller space. I mean, what are the tips that you can
Yeah.
offer, Bianca?
Um, well, it's really just multifunctional spaces, basically. Like I said, it's not really about rooms, but more like pocket spaces or nooks. So your dining table can actually be converted into your office space. And at the end of the day, pack up your laptop, do your table, and that's it. So it's small spaces actually are easier to clean as well. So it's just really like that. You don't really have to have a huge budget. It's just combining spaces to be multifunctional. Their living room can also be your gym. It can also be, let's say, your yoga space. It's just that basically. I've done a lot of model units for Ortigas Land. They have so many nice units right now that have open spaces, huge windows, balconies. So that's important if she's looking for, if our viewer is actually looking for, condos that really maximize the space. Yeah, so there, it's basically just finding the right space or area for your activity. Just going back to that, it's really that.
Okay, this one is a bit off topic, but Pam, someone's asking, where did you get now your tattoos? I have to ask that to be fair to everyone.
Oh, I, I I I have a list of different artists. Message me on Instagram. I'll tell you.
That's
Long
so
list. It's a long list. But here, in Manila, I go to June Tats, June de Pasupil, and Ouija Laksamana.
Okay,
Yeah,
next
it's
is
a,
yung
yeah.
parang specific colors daw that you would recommend to help calm yung the frazzled nerve.
Colors? Ng tattoo?
No, I mean, I think in terms of room
Ah,
color.
okay. Okay. Okay, it's weird because it really depends on what you like. They say that blue, like light blues are calming, but I really feel like it's preference because some people say like gray is a depressing color, but I love gray and I love black. Like my favorite bed sheets are black. So it's a matter of preference. I think you'll notice like the colors that you're drawn to. But I feel like the pros are better. Should talk about paint better because oh my god, like the few times that I've chosen paint, I really did a horrible job. Like my god. So I think they need let's ask the experts about the colors, please.
Also, there's one question: is having a pet help in
Yeah.
terms of?
Yes. They're the best stress busters. I swear. I swear, like I can't. I couldn't imagine going through quarantine without my dog. I feel like I I might not have survived quarantine without him, because he makes me laugh every day, even if he does crazy things like eat chocolate and things that he shouldn't eat. Yeah. But please ask them for ano, because I would love to know about colors as well from the
Yeah.
expert.
Okay, so Bianca and Vit, uh, someone's asking, what's the right color though for this?
Um,
Color.
Well, I mean, there's no right and wrong answer in terms of color, but then if you want something like brighter and something that would make your space, bigger, feel wider, it's always just lighter colors. Um, but it doesn't mean that you're not allowed to have those accent colors, right? You can just choose darker colors, but put it in like one area just to divide the space. Again, with a pocket spaces, you can have predominantly an all white or beige room, but then in your little nook where you want to read or have your own space, then you can have a different color. So that actually helps you divide the space without actually having to put partitions or divisions. Just changing the wall finish is um already a big thing. Yeah.
I agree with Bianca. In terms of color, there isn't actually a formula. If you're if you're worried that your space right now is kind of small, you can you can opt for colors that are lighter. Like for example, in my case, I prefer pastel colors when it comes to rooms because they seem to make things appear larger. On the contrary, darker spaces tend to make spaces feel more intimate. But if in case of bedrooms, for example, if you like to have a more intimate feel, then you can go with dark colors. So really, there's no formula. You just go with what you want, and you don't even have to limit yourself to color. You can go with patterns, wallpapers, and all that. So anything that will make you happy and comfortable in your home is okay.
Okay, as much as I want to ask as many questions as possible, I think I'm now down to my last question. This is for everyone. In choosing a home, what must now be the main consideration of our home buyers? And for Pam, what advice can you give to our viewers who continue to feel lost and down because of the pandemic? So we'll start first with our architect and interior designer.
Okay, Bianca, you go ahead.
In choosing a home, what must now be the
Choosing
main
a home.
consideration?
All right. Okay. So, whenever you choose a home, you always have to first look at the layout, right? That's what I do. I check how the developer laid out the space. And then try to assess again your personal activities. Are the spaces conducive to your own liking, to how you go about your day to day? So that's very important. And like I said, bigger open spaces are really more functional. It's not anymore having different partitions. Something that's a little bit more open. Having a lot of windows would be nice. Before, I didn't really like having a balcony, but then now, because of the pandemic, I really appreciate our balcony at the moment. So I guess that's really something to consider as well. Yeah, that's basically it. Just really assessing your needs and having a functional multi-purpose area for everything. So when you choose, make sure that you can really envision how you will work or live in this unit before you even decided buying it.
It?
Okay. In terms of choosing a home, I think right now it's important to consider the requirements of the new normal. So, um, like I mentioned in my presentation before, we're shifting towards a preference for contactless technology, like smart home technology and urban gardens. And so I think that when you choose a home, it must be the home must be flexible enough to adapt to the needs of the times. For example, the no, I'm just thinking at the top of my head. No, my one of the current projects of Ortigas Land, the Empress, they offer um, home, what do you call that? Contactless technology in their units. So this will really prove helpful, especially if we have to carry out the social distancing. But besides that, I agree with Bianca as well. You should choose a home that can accommodate your activities. So if you're someone who is, who wants to have access to greenery, to uh, to open spaces, even if you have to live in a condominium, it's best to choose one that is light and airy. And I think it's really about your personal preference.
Pam, words for.
So if the lockdown is getting you down, if you're feeling down during the quarantine, it helps to listen to what your body's saying. Sometimes, you need a break. Sometimes it can be your body just wanting a break from all the bad news.
Mhm.
Sometimes it means you need to talk to someone. And I get it because it depends on how you're feeling. There are times when you feel sad and the thing that would make you feel better is talking to a friend. But there are times also when it's easier to talk to a stranger because parang you're not bogged down by everything else that's happening in your relationship. And sometimes it's easier to open up to somebody who doesn't know anything about you. So if that's what you want to do, there are helplines and hope lines that you can call, and there are people ready to talk to you anytime. Doctors are also now doing tele consultations because clinics aren't back to their normal schedules yet, so you can do that as well. But if you can reach out to people that you feel comfortable talking to, that would be good as well. Sometimes it's also because for me, I don't always, it doesn't, like, if I'm feeling down, it doesn't always mean I want to talk to someone. Sometimes it just means I feel I need to treat myself. Like maybe it means I just I'll do something nice for myself, whether it's taking a long, long, long shower or ordering a chocolate cake just for me. So there are little things that you can do to make yourself feel better. And again, the space. Sometimes, when you feel really strange and parang things feel so chaotic, sometimes it's also because of our environment, and it really makes a difference when you create like a good space for you to live in and for you to relax in. So yeah, but reach out and it happens that strangers do reach out to me because I've been so vocal about mental health and mental wellness. So if that person wants more tips, like, just message me. I reply, I promise.
Okay, that was such a great discussion, highly informative one, and I must say, very helpful and inspiring. Unfortunately, that's the only time we have left. Now, I just have a few words to officially close this. First, I'd like to thank Ortigas Land for allowing us to host this webinar. And then, indeed, our developers whose estates and projects managed to afford their residents convenience, implemented innovations that could provide that extra sense of safety and security. We would like to thank them. Never has the concept of having a master planned mixed-use estate been more important than today. Actually, many people were asking me if now is a good time to invest in real estate. This is what I have to say. One must see a property as more than just an investment, but rather as a sanctuary that would provide you a safe ground where you can continue to comfortably live and thrive no matter the situation. More importantly, over the long term, real estate will prove to be a stable and reliable asset for one. I mean, its value will never diminish, and it's like having something that could assure the future of your family, of your loved ones. So I guess there is really no saying, now is the right time, now is not yet the right time. It's really more of knowing your priorities and knowing what you want for your family. So again, this wraps up our webinar for today. Thank you again to our panelists, Architect Vit, to our interior designer, Miss Bianca, and of course to Pam Pastor. Thank you for sharing your time and your insights and expertise as well. And to Ortigas Lan, again, I am Texa Manego, the editor of the Inquirer Property section. Have a good day, everyone.
Get a chance to take home an Apple gadget. Get in touch with our property specialists to know how to get an Apple gadget from Artigas Land. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we offline na?